Buyers already paid AST SpaceMobile like the phone network is live. If you hold ASTS or you are considering buying it, you are paying for a network you cannot use. AST SpaceMobile has 13 spacecraft in orbit. The Q2 filing from August 10, 2026 says they have not recognized any revenues from the SpaceMobile service. The factory can keep building satellites. Falcon 9 can keep flying bluebirds. That is good. And they sold ground stations and government work this quarter. But that is not what moves the stock. The next move needs SpaceMobile Service revenues. The Q2 filing does not give you a date for that line. AST SpaceMobile is building a phone network from space that connects directly to your phone without cell towers. Getting that network live is the key thing this company is building toward. I have a master's in aerospace engineering, so I look at the satellites, then I look at what they actually sold. You see, Q2 products revenues were $24.428 million. Products revenues are gateway equipment and related software sold to phone companies. A gateway is a ground station, a box on the ground so a phone company's network can talk to the satellites. Services revenue were about $7 million. That is mostly US government testing and development. Neither one is SpaceMobile Service revenues. Total revenues for Q2 2026 were $31.52 million. That is products revenues plus services revenue added together. Q1 total revenues were $14.735 million. Headlines will say sales more than doubled. Doubling boxes and government work is not the same phone network turning on. They can assemble, integrate, and test up to 6 Block 2 Bluebird satellites a month. Each one is the largest satellite in low Earth orbit, the size of a tennis court. ASTS stock closed at $70.98 on August 14, 2026, which is 47% below the all-time high. They can build 6 a month. SpaceMobile Service revenues are still zero. Which of those two did buyers pay $70.98 for? Full year 2026 total revenues guidance stayed at $150 million to $200 million. If you hold ASTS, that guide is the decision. The CFO Andrew Johnson said 2026 total revenues are gateway deliveries, government milestones, and consulting with the phone companies, with potential upside if they start recognizing initial commercial service revenue. That is the core. The Q2 filing still has no SpaceMobile Service revenues. The earnings call talks about revenue backlog of approximately $1.3 billion. That is a company-defined figure. The 10Q has a different line. Remaining performance obligations were approximately $1.2 billion as of June 30, 2026. That is contracted work they have not counted as revenue yet. They expect to recognize approximately 6.6% of that as revenue over the next 12 months. That is about $79 million. In the Q1 filing, that same approximately $1.2 billion pile was 8.4% over the next 12 months, about $101 million. So, the contracted total did not grow. The near-term slice got smaller. Are you following this so far? Because this matters to what you are being asked to pay. First half total revenues were $46.255 million. If they hold that $150 to $200 million guide, the second half has to do $103.7 million to $153.7 million. The CFO said it is weighted toward Q4. That is still gateways and government unless SpaceMobile Service revenues show up. About $79 million of the contracted pile in the next year. $150 to $200 million for the full year. Which of those did you think was the phone network? Now, they did get more of the big satellites into orbit. On August 5, 2026, Falcon 9 flew bluebirds 11, 12, and 13. Count from June 17, 2026. when Falcon 9 flew Bluebirds 8, 9 and 10, and there is 6 Bluebirds in about 50 days. The company now says 13 spacecraft are in orbit. I almost treated that as the July problem being solved. Then I went back to the filing. In the Q1 2026 filing, they said approximately 45 satellites in orbit by the end of 2026. The Q2 filing says early 2027, based on current expectations regarding launch availability. Manufacturing is not the weight. They can assemble up to 6 Block 2 Bluebird satellites a month. The ride is the problem. The president of ASTS SpaceMobile commented on Blue Origin, August 10, 2026. They are targeting this year. We are not betting on that necessarily. We will be happy if they do it, but we are not betting on that in our numbers. With a mix of launches, we think we can get to early 2027 for our initial 45 satellites. He also said they have 10 launches booked with 2 different providers, cadence every month or 2. He did not name the second provider. SpaceX is the one that is flying them. SpaceX is also the company that sells Starlink to phones. The rocket that works is the competitor's rocket. Launch delay is survivable when the product already builds. Iridium's next generation satellites were delayed after a 2016 pad explosion, and Iridium could wait because the first generation network was already charging customers. ASTS SpaceMobile's Q2 filing says the SpaceMobile Service has not launched and has not recognized any revenues. More satellites in the sky is not the same as a phone bill starting. If this breakdown is useful, hit like and subscribe. I go 3 layers deep every week. Closing the notes is not the same as buying a rocket. On July 15, 2026, they priced $1 billion aggregate principal amount of 1.625% convertible senior notes due February 1, 2034. That is a loan. Investors handed ASTS SpaceMobile $1 billion, then $1.15 billion when the option closed. ASTS SpaceMobile pays 1.625% a year. The filing said the money was for growth and to get more access to orbit, including partnerships or buying a launch company, so they are less stuck waiting on other people's rockets. After the notes, the company says pro forma cash, cash equivalents, and restricted cash over $3.7 billion as of June 30, 2026. The money is in. The July 20, 2026 8K says the company currently does not have any understandings or agreements with respect to any such strategic transactions. The August 10 10Q repeats that. No deal 8K from July 16 through August 17. They are spending on satellites and launch contract payments. That is purchase of property and equipment. And that is not an acquisition of a rocket company. I went deep on why they pointed that race at the right in another video, link in the description. The notes closed, but they did not buy the ride. The person with the votes is not on your clock. Chairman and CEO Abel Avalon holds Class C shares, 78 million of them. Those shares can give him up to 88.31% of the total voting power. Holders cannot force a rocket purchase. Holders cannot force a SpaceMobile Service start date. Same as AirCosta. The person who has the votes decides when it matters. That is not the whole of the CEO. On the August 10 call, he talked about extra factory space in Midland, Texas. He said they are proud to be manufacturing the largest satellites in low Earth orbit in the United States and in Texas, where bigger is better. That factory is the part he owns. The 10Q still names launch availability as the weight. Those can be both true. Tesla FSD was already in Tesla's price from November 2021 to 2024. The stock did not go to the next level until the promised product built. Vision can already be inside ASTS. For me, I will not touch ASTS until SpaceMobile Service revenues show on a 10Q. They talk about later in 2026 for beta with the carriers, and next year for commercial service. 2026 is an open date. It is not my buy date. If they start providing the promised retail SpaceMobile service, then we can start talking about valuation. For anyone holding ASTS, the decision is not whether the factory can build. It is whether you pay $70.98 now or you wait until that 10Q line moves. The CEO can wait on 88.31% of the votes. You are looking at $70.98 today. Whose calendar is that price on? Here are 3 things to watch. 1. SpaceMobile Service revenues on a later 10Q filing, not total revenues, that one line. 2. Whether approximately 45 satellites still points at early 2027 or the date moves again. 3. Whether an 8K names a rocket purchase. The 1.625% notes closed. The filing still says no understanding or agreements. They have 13 satellites up, and the phone service they told still has not built $1. When a 10Q finally shows SpaceMobile Service revenue, will you buy then, or will that number already be in the stock? I already sorted space stocks by how they get paid, working companies versus names still selling a dream, and ASTS was the pre-revenue example. If you are looking to buy another space stock after this, that video is the filter. Click here to watch it now.